Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Ayşe Süberker. Turkiye's strategic location between Europe and Asia has also coincidentally put it adjacent to 60% of the world's proven oil and natural gas reserves. While the country still has an energy import dependency, it also aims to become a major energy hub, transporting Asia's gas and oil to markets in Europe. And a recent natural gas deal could help bring those ambitions closer. The Turkish state energy company BOTAS and British oil giant Shell have signed a 10-year liquefied natural gas agreement. Turkiye's Energy and Natural Resources Minister Alparslan Bayraktar said around 4 billion cubic meters will be delivered annually starting from 2027. Bayraktar also said the deal will provide the option of receiving LNG from the filling port and unloading it to European terminals. Earlier this year, Türkiye had also inked an LNG agreement with the US's largest oil company, ExxonMobil. Ankara has made significant investments in LNG facilities and international natural gas pipelines over the past 10 years. And for more on the 10-year LNG deal, joining me now from London is Tom Marzek-Manser. He is the head of gas analytics at Independent Commodity Intelligence Services. And from Berlin, Thomas O'Donnell, a global fellow at the Wilson Center. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Tom, what does Turkey look to achieve with this natural gas deal with Shell? How important is this?
It's a big deal. Turkey and particularly BOTAS have a number of long-term natural gas and LNG contracts coming up for expiry in the coming years. So making sure that they've got new contracts to backfill those is really important. It also gives BOTAS a lot of flexibility in terms of making sure that it's signing an LNG contract, a liquefied natural gas contract, rather than just more pipeline contracts, which obviously come from a specific route. With LNG, Shell can source this volume from many parts of the world, no doubt from the US, amongst others.
So what does that tell us about the shape of Turkey-Britain relations?
Shell is an international company, and in fact, very little of Shell's portfolio comes from Britain. So I don't think this is a particular reflection of relations with Britain or the United Kingdom. But Shell is in fact the biggest portfolio player globally when it comes to LNG. So it's about making sure that Turkey's got a relationship with the biggest player out there in terms of LNG supply.
So, Thomas, how will this deal serve Turkey's ambitions to become a regional energy hub?
Everything contributes, right? So I like to look at it as Turkey has it's sort of two-sided. On the one hand, Turkey never had gas itself. Now it does have some gas itself in the Black Sea, but it increasingly needs gas. It uses something like 50 billion cubic meters a year. So making this deal and also deal with Exxon, there was a deal with Oman. The idea is to have the minister says the idea is to have a portfolio of LNG deals that would be something like 10 to 12% of that 50 BCM that it uses. So this diversifies it. And so on the one hand, I think what's really of highest importance is the security of Turkey's energy supply. And as Tom pointed out, right now, they get it by pipeline from Russia. And we know Russia is very problematic with what's going on in the world. They get from Iran, and Iran is not reliable. Also, you understand the geopolitics, and they actually periodically cut off the gas when they need it themselves in wintertime. And the third one is Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan, on the other hand, is fairly, politically and so forth reliable. And they've signed deals with Azerbaijan lately to try and increase that. And actually, this is where the hub comes in. Turkey, with that gas, if they get it from Azerbaijan, the idea is to pass most of this on to Europe, but that would require further expansion of pipelines across Turkey. So it both contributes to Turkey's security by having a mix that's not just these pipelines, which are problematic, but also to make it, in the future, a hub.
So, Tom, what kind of additional regional and global trade opportunities will come along with this deal, you think?
So this deal, it appears to have a clause which says that if the volumes are not needed by BOTAS in its home market, that it can have the cargoes delivered to European terminals. So whether that is in the Mediterranean or even in Northwest Europe, places such as Germany and the Netherlands, which obviously have a very high demand for LNG. So that is that flexibility tool, as Thomas has already mentioned, is a massive step forward and a change in terms of how BOTAS manages its portfolio. It can, this contract is for something like one cargo every week from Shell. So there is a lot of flexibility in delivering that to other parts of Europe if it doesn't need it. And of course, gas is seasonal, so it may be that that we see these cargoes arriving into Turkey during the winter, and less so actually during the summer, where BOTAS can maybe trade the Northwest European hubs or deliver it to Shell, back to Shell, or to many other players.
So, Thomas, could this deal be seen as competition with Russia, which is also investing heavily in Turkey's energy sector?
Well, from what I know about over 20 years or so of following what Russia does in the gas sector, they're never pleased when a country diversifies their sources of gas, because that gives them, less not only economic but less political leverage. And obviously, Putin would like to take some of the huge amount of gas that he can no longer sell to the European Union, and it's essentially stranded up in northwestern Siberia. He'd like to take some of that gas and send it on to Turkey, and that's the discussions that have been going on. You'd have to build pipelines, and that's quite complicated to do. And so everything, I would say, if I was sitting back in NATO or Washington or someplace like that, I would look at this and say, every bit of gas, every bit of relationship Turkey makes with other players in the world that is not Russia lessens the importance of any new gas coming to Turkey from Russia. And that's in the interest of security.
So, Tom, is this a more viable and feasible way for Europe's energy security than of Russia's proposal to build a colossal natural gas pipeline through Türkiye to Europe?
I mean, Putin made statements last week in Vladivostok saying that he wanted to use Blue Stream and Turk Stream to maybe supply southeastern Europe and Central Europe. If a key contract to flow gas to Austria and Slovakia through Ukraine, no less, stops working in January of 2025. So I think there's really key geopolitical plays in terms of what the Kremlin wants in terms of its needs to supply Europe and how it uses Turkey. And in turn, Turkey knowing that, as Thomas has already mentioned, reducing its dependency on Russia itself and having prices which are more globally representative means that when it does no doubt go back to Gazprom and say we want an extension of some of our contracts, maybe at a lower volume, it's also going to get it at a lower price because Turkey can say, I've got options all over the place. You need to be competitive on price.
So, Thomas, what could you tell us about Turkey's infrastructure? How has it transformed, especially in the last 2 decades?
Yeah, well, it has developed quite a bit internally. First of all, it's the LNG terminals, to be able to bring in this LNG. That's a huge development, and other pipelines. It's not only a matter of the internal pipeline and regasification capacities and storage capacity that are being built up, but it's also the fact that Turkey is going abroad and trying to find oil abroad, as like the recent deals with Somalia, where they're exploring offshore, or the recent developments in the Black Sea. So it's for Turkey's security, diversification, building up its own infrastructure, having storage capacity, and being a hub means you have extra gas you can supply people. That also means, if you're fairly dependent on Russian gas, Mr. Erdogan understands what Putin was willing to do to all of the European Union. So I'm sure he's a realist. He knows that something could happen to this gas for political reasons. So the more gas from other places, the more storage. If you're a hub, that means you have extra gas that you can sell, but it also means if there's a crisis, you have gas for yourself and for your friends.
So, Tom, Turkish Energy Minister Bayraktar also said studies are being carried out with both neighboring countries and international companies, organizations, to create a balanced supply portfolio. What did he mean by that? And how will, on top of all of these, how will this deal elevate Ankara's standing in Europe's energy market, especially natural gas?
Well, I think we've seen so many deals. We've mentioned a number of them already. In terms of not just the Shell deal, there was the memorandum of understanding with Exxon for a very similar volume of LNG. The renewal of the Shah Deniz 1 contract earlier in the summer, which is a deal with Azerbaijan. So these are those negotiations we're talking about. And I'm sure, as I mentioned earlier, that potential idea for Russia to supply southern eastern EU markets through Turkey increasingly. So that will be all part of that conversation in some shape or form. In terms of the hub development, I think one thing that we've not really touched upon, yes, it creates security supply for the own country and for neighboring markets, but the one missing piece for me is more about liberalization of players within Turkey. BOTAS is really the dominant player, and for a real liquid, competitive Turkish market, you need to allow other market participants, be they Shells or utilities in Northwest Europe, to actually be trading Turkish gas within Turkey. And that's a big missing piece for me at the moment.
So, Thomas, you both mentioned energy security, but how will this deal and similar ones help Turkiye maybe its neighbors to reach its net zero emissions targets by 2050s?
So on the one hand, if you look at the United States, half of the cut that they've made in carbon emissions is from renewables. The other half has been by turning off coal and using natural gas, because natural gas emits much less carbon dioxide and much less pollution also. So as an interim measure, interim being what, probably decades, the more use of natural gas, the more natural gas capacity is out there, the more the less, I should say, coal will be burned, and that's very positive. And another thing is the European Union. I'm sitting here in Germany. They have a severe problem in Germany. They want to dramatically increase the number of windmills, but they don't have anything to back those up in the days when the wind doesn't blow. And in practice, the green minister here is actually installing 25 gigawatts of natural gas generation capacity, because that's the de facto backup. Yeah. So I would say, if you want to do renewables in a massive way, there is no grid scale storage from batteries. The technology is simply not there, and you need natural gas, and that's the reality. Or nuclear, but some countries are unfortunately unwilling to do that. Yes. So gas is here to stay. It's a partner of renewables.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.